The mist clung to the tall buildings of downtown Los Angeles like a shroud, diffusing the morning sunlight into a soft golden haze. In front of the prestigious Chateau Marmont, a line of gleaming town cars idled, their engines purring quietly as they waited to collect their high-profile clients. Among them sat a modest, slightly older black sedan, its paint job showing signs of wear, but meticulously clean nonetheless. Behind its wheel, Marcus Johnson adjusted his tie in the rearview mirror, his weathered hands smoothing down the fabric with practiced precision. At 53, Marcus had been driving for Elite Transportation Services for just over a year. What his employers didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the car had been his home for the past 8 months. After his wife's medical bills had drained their savings, followed by her passing, the mortgage payments became impossible to keep up with. The foreclosure had been swift and merciless. Too proud to burden his already struggling adult children and determined to maintain his dignity and independence, Marcus had quietly adapted to his new reality. The back of the sedan had been carefully arranged into a living space of sorts. During the day, everything was neatly packed away in the trunk, a small duffel bag with changes of clothes, a battery-powered lamp for reading, a pillow, and a thermal sleeping bag. Each morning, Marcus would rise before dawn, visit a nearby gym where he maintained a membership solely for shower access, and prepare for another day of driving the Elite around Los Angeles. His passenger that morning was someone he had driven twice before, Keanu Reeves. Unlike many of the celebrities and executives Marcus transported, Reeves had always been polite, soft-spoken, and had remembered his name. There was something genuinely unassuming about the actor that made Marcus feel at ease despite the vast difference in their circumstances. As Reeves emerged from the hotel entrance, Marcus noticed he wore the same casual outfit he often saw in paparazzi photos: worn jeans, a simple dark t-shirt under a blazer, and scuffed boots. No entourage, no fanfare, just a man walking with purpose and a gentle nod to the doorman. Marcus quickly exited the car to open the rear door, standing at attention with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mr. Reeves." "Morning, Marcus," Reeves replied, returning the smile. "How are you today?" Such a simple question, yet Marcus caught the genuine interest in the actor's eyes. It wasn't the perfunctory greeting he received from most clients. "I'm well, sir. Thank you for asking. We're headed to the studio today?" "That's right," Reeves confirmed, sliding into the back seat. "But I'd like to make a quick stop first, if that's all right. There's a coffee shop I like on Sunset." "Of course, sir. Whatever you need." As Marcus merged into the morning traffic, he couldn't help but notice Reeves studying him in the rearview mirror. The actor's gaze was thoughtful, almost concerned. "You know, Marcus," Reeves said after a few minutes of comfortable silence, "I've had a lot of drivers over the years, but there's something different about you. You have this presence, like someone who's seen a lot of life." Marcus chuckled softly. "That's a nice way of saying I'm getting old, Mr. Reeves." "No," Reeves shook his head, leaning forward slightly. "That's not what I mean at all. There's a kind of wisdom that comes from experience. Not everyone has it." The compliment warmed Marcus, though he felt a pang of irony. If Reeves only knew the experience he was currently living. They pulled up to a small, unassuming coffee shop tucked between larger businesses on Sunset Boulevard. Before Marcus could get out to open his door, Reeves was already stepping onto the sidewalk. "Can I bring you something, Marcus? Coffee? Tea?" The offer caught Marcus off guard. "Oh, that's very kind, Mr. Reeves, but I couldn't." "Please, I insist, and call me Keanu." "A black coffee would be nice. Keanu, thank you." As Reeves disappeared into the shop, Marcus took a deep breath. These small moments of human connection were what kept him going, what reminded him that despite his circumstances, he still had his dignity and the ability to do his job well. When Reeves returned, he handed Marcus not just a coffee, but also a paper bag containing a breakfast sandwich. "I thought you might be hungry," he said simply, as if the gesture were nothing unusual. "Thank you," Marcus replied, genuinely touched. "That's very thoughtful." They continued toward the studio, making casual conversation about the changing landscape of Los Angeles, films Reeves was working on, and Marcus's observations from his years of driving across the city. There was an ease between them that belied their different worlds. As they approached the studio gates, Marcus's cell phone rang. Normally, he would never answer a personal call while driving a client, but the number belonged to his daughter, Sarah. She rarely called during working hours unless it was important. "Excuse me, Mr. Reeves, Keanu. My daughter is calling. It might be important." "Of course, please answer it." Marcus connected the call through the car's Bluetooth system. "Sarah, is everything all right?" His daughter's voice filled the car, sounding stressed and on the verge of tears. "Dad, I'm so sorry to bother you at work, but the transmission in my car just completely died. The mechanic says it's going to be at least $2,000 to fix, and I just don't have it right now with the baby's medical bills. I don't know what to do. I need the car to get to work and take Emily to her appointments." Marcus's heart sank. Sarah was a single mother working as a nurse with a 2-year-old daughter who had been born with a heart condition. He wanted nothing more than to help her, but his own financial situation made it impossible. "Sarah, sweetheart, try not to worry. We'll figure something out. I'll call you back when I finish my shift, okay?" After they said goodbye, an uncomfortable silence filled the car. Marcus cleared his throat. "I apologize for that, sir." In the rearview mirror, he could see Reeves watching him with those thoughtful eyes again. "Family comes first, Marcus. No need to apologize." They pulled up to the studio entrance, and Marcus prepared to say goodbye to his passenger, expecting to wait in the car for several hours until Reeves needed to be transported again. To his surprise, the actor didn't immediately exit the vehicle. "Marcus, would you mind coming inside with me? There's a great cafeteria at the studio, and I'd like to continue our conversation. Unless you have another client scheduled?" "No, sir. You're my only appointment today." "Good. Please join me then." Uncertain but intrigued, Marcus followed Reeves into the studio complex. As they walked through the corridors, various crew members and actors greeted the star with obvious respect. What struck Marcus was how Reeves introduced him to each person they encountered, not as "my driver," but simply as "my friend Marcus." They settled at a quiet table in the corner of the cafeteria, their coffee cups refilled by an attentive staff member who seemed surprised to see Reeves sitting with his driver but professional enough not to comment. "Marcus," Reeves began, his voice gentle but direct, "I couldn't help but notice some things about your situation. There are personal items stored carefully in your trunk. The car has that lived-in quality that's different from a typical service vehicle. And just now the call with your daughter." He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. "I don't mean to pry, but are you currently without a permanent residence?" The question, asked with such genuine concern and without a trace of judgment, caught Marcus completely off guard. For a moment, he considered denying it, preserving the professional facade he had worked so hard to maintain. But something in Reeves's expression told him that honesty would be met with compassion, not pity. "Yes," Marcus admitted quietly, his eyes fixed on his coffee cup. "For about 8 months now. After my wife passed away from cancer, the medical bills took everything. I couldn't keep up with the mortgage. My pride kept me from asking my kids for help. They have their own struggles." He looked up, meeting Reeves's gaze directly. "But I want you to know that it doesn't affect my work. I take pride in being reliable and professional." Reeves nodded, his expression revealing no shock or discomfort. "I never doubted your professionalism, Marcus. In fact, you're one of the best drivers I've had." He leaned forward slightly. "Life can be brutal sometimes. It can take everything from us in an instant. What matters is how we face it, and you've faced it with dignity." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of Marcus's admission hanging between them. "I'd like to help," Reeves said finally. "Not out of pity, but out of respect for how you've handled adversity." Marcus shook his head. "I appreciate that, sir, but I'm not looking for charity." "It's not charity, Marcus. It's one human being helping another when they have the means to do so." Reeves's eyes held a depth of understanding that seemed to come from personal experience with loss and hardship. "Would you allow me that privilege?" Before Marcus could respond, a production assistant approached their table, apologetically informing Reeves that he was needed on set. The actor nodded in acknowledgement. "I need to go, but please wait for me, Marcus. We're not finished with this conversation." As Reeves walked away, Marcus remained at the table, conflicted. His pride warred with his practical needs. He thought of Sarah and little Emily, of the mounting costs of his granddaughter's medical care, of his daughter's broken-down car. Perhaps accepting help wasn't weakness but strength, the strength to put his family's needs above his own pride. Hours passed as Marcus waited, occasionally wandering around the public areas of the studio, observing the controlled chaos of filmmaking. Late in the afternoon, Reeves finally returned, looking tired but satisfied. "Sorry to keep you waiting," he said, rejoining Marcus. "Are you ready to go?" On the drive back to the hotel, Reeves directed Marcus to take a different route, one that led them through a quiet residential neighborhood in Studio City. He asked Marcus to pull over in front of a modest but well-maintained apartment building. "I'd like you to come inside with me for a moment," Reeves said, already exiting the car. Puzzled, Marcus followed him into the building and up to the second floor. Reeves stopped at an apartment door, pulled out a key, and opened it, gesturing for Marcus to enter. The apartment was small but clean and fully furnished. A comfortable living room with a sofa and television, a kitchen with modern appliances, a bedroom visible through an open door. Simple, but homey. "This is one of several properties I own in the city," Reeves explained. "I keep them for friends and family who need a place to stay temporarily, but this one is currently unoccupied. I'd like you to use it, Marcus, for as long as you need." Marcus stood in the center of the living room, overwhelmed. "Mr. Reeves, Keanu, I don't know what to say. This is too generous." "It's sitting empty otherwise," Reeves shrugged, his characteristic humility evident. "And about your daughter's car, I'd like to help with that too. Not as a handout, but as an advance on your salary. I'm going to be in Los Angeles filming for the next 6 months, and I'd like to book you as my exclusive driver for that period, with a significant increase in your rate." Marcus felt tears welling in his eyes, something that hadn't happened since his wife's funeral. "Why would you do this for me? You barely know me." Reeves moved to the kitchen counter where a folder lay that Marcus hadn't noticed before. He opened it, revealing what looked like a lease agreement and other documents. "I know what it's like to struggle, Marcus. To lose people you love. To feel like the world has turned its back on you." His voice was soft, tinged with the echo of personal pain. "When I was younger, my sister was diagnosed with leukemia. I watched her fight for 10 years. I've seen how medical bills can devastate a family, how quickly security can turn to uncertainty." He pushed the folder toward Marcus. "This isn't charity. It's recognition of your dignity and your worth. The rent on this apartment is nominal, well below market rate. The advance on your salary is exactly that, an advance, not a gift. You'll earn every penny of it. And if you're uncomfortable with any of this, we can find another arrangement that feels right to both of us." Marcus carefully picked up the folder, his hands trembling slightly. Inside was indeed a lease agreement with an incredibly reasonable rent, as well as a driver contract with terms that made his eyes widen. "This is more than generous," he said quietly. "But what about your reputation? If people found out you were helping your driver like this?" Reeves smiled, that famous gentle smile that had graced movie screens for decades. "Marcus, if there's one thing I've learned in this business, it's that what matters isn't what others think of you, but what you know about yourself. I'm not doing this for publicity. In fact, I'd prefer to keep this between us." He extended his hand. "So, do we have a deal?" Marcus looked at the hand, then back at the apartment that could become his home. He thought of Sarah and Emily, of how this unexpected blessing would ripple through their lives as well. With a deep breath, he grasped Reeves's hand firmly. "We have a deal." Over the next 6 months, Marcus's life transformed. With stable housing and the generous salary from his exclusive contract with Reeves, he was able to help Sarah with her car repairs and contribute to Emily's medical costs. More importantly, he regained his sense of security and dignity. What surprised him most, however, was the friendship that developed between himself and the famous actor. Reeves wasn't just a benevolent employer. He became a genuine friend, often asking Marcus to join him for meals, discussing books they both enjoyed, and sharing stories from their vastly different life experiences. When the filming schedule included a week in San Francisco, Reeves insisted that Marcus drive him rather than fly, turning the journey into a road trip along the California coast. During those long hours on the road, The lines between employer and employee, celebrity and ordinary man, blurred and eventually disappeared. It was during this trip, as they watched the sunset over the Pacific from a cliffside viewpoint near Big Sur, that Marcus finally asked the question that had been on his mind for months. "Why me, Keanu? Of all the people in the world who need help, why did you choose to help me?" Reeves was silent for a long moment, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun was sinking into the ocean in a blaze of orange and gold. "I believe that we meet the people we're supposed to meet when we're supposed to meet them," he said finally. "I've been fortunate in my life, Marcus. Despite the losses and the pain, I've been given more than I could ever need. What's the point of that good fortune if not to share it when the opportunity arises?" He turned to look at Marcus directly. "You weren't looking for handouts. You were working hard, maintaining your dignity in difficult circumstances, putting your family's needs before your own. How could I not respond to that?" As the sun disappeared beneath the horizon, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed because one person, one exceptionally kind and generous person, had paid attention and acted with compassion. It wasn't just the material assistance, though that had been life-changing. It was the restoration of his belief in human goodness, in the possibility that people could see and care for one another across the divides of wealth, fame, and circumstance. 6 months later, when Reeves's filming schedule took him away from Los Angeles, Marcus had saved enough to secure his own apartment. He continued working for Elite Transportation, but now as a senior driver with a roster of regular clients who valued his professionalism and warm personality. Sarah and Emily were doing well too. Emily's latest medical reports showed significant improvement in her heart condition, and Sarah had been promoted to charge nurse at her hospital. The dark cloud that had hung over their family for so long had finally begun to lift. On his last day driving Reeves before the actor departed for a film location in Europe, Marcus presented him with a small carved wooden box. "My wife's father made this," he explained as Reeves carefully opened it. "It was one of the few things I kept when I lost the house. Inside is something I want you to have." Nestled in the box was a simple leather bracelet with a small silver charm in the shape of a key. "This is my way of saying that you've given me back the key to my life," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just through your generosity, but through your friendship and your example. You've shown me what it means to use whatever power and resources we have to lift others up." Reeves accepted the gift with visible emotion, immediately fastening the bracelet around his wrist. "I'll treasure this, Marcus. And remember, this isn't goodbye. I'll be back in Los Angeles before you know it, and I'll still need the best driver in town." As Marcus watched Reeves's plane take off later that day, he reflected on the extraordinary chain of events that had begun with the simple act of one person noticing another's struggle and having the compassion to respond. He thought about all the people in the world like his former self, proud, hard-working people facing circumstances beyond their control, trying to maintain their dignity amid hardship. He made a decision then, standing on the observation deck of LAX. When he got home, he would start planning. There were other drivers at Elite, other service workers throughout Los Angeles, facing housing insecurity. With his new connections and stable situation, perhaps he could create some kind of support network, a resource for emergency housing or financial assistance. It wouldn't be on the scale of what Keanu Reeves could do, but it would be something. A ripple effect of kindness spreading outward from the stone that had been dropped into his life by a compassionate actor who saw his value as a human being beyond his role as a driver. As he walked back to his car, no longer his home but simply his vehicle, Marcus smiled. The truth was, what Keanu Reeves had given him went far beyond material assistance. He had restored Marcus's faith in possibility, in the capacity of humans to care for one another. And that, more than anything else, was the gift that would continue to transform not just his life, but the lives of everyone he touched. Sometimes the most profound acts of kindness come from the most unexpected sources. Sometimes the person in the back seat sees more than just a driver. Sometimes a simple question, "Are you currently without a permanent residence?" asked with genuine concern rather than judgment, can be the beginning of a life changed forever. And sometimes, a Hollywood actor known for playing heroes on screen proves to be just as heroic when the cameras aren't rolling, reminding us all that our true legacy isn't measured in box office numbers or awards, but in the lives we touch along the way. As for Marcus Johnson, he's still driving the streets of Los Angeles, still greeting his clients with that warm, dignified smile. But now, when they ask him how he's doing, his answer is different. "I'm blessed," he tells them, "more blessed than you could possibly know." And sometimes, if the client seems to be having a particularly rough day, he shares his story, never mentioning Reeves by name, respecting the actor's privacy, but passing along the most important lesson he learned, that we are all just one act of kindness away from a transformed life, whether we're the ones giving or receiving that kindness. In a city often criticized for its shallowness and self-absorption, Marcus became a quiet ambassador for a different way of being, a way exemplified by an actor who, despite his fame and fortune, never forgot what it means to simply be human. And that, perhaps, is the greatest plot twist of all. The end.